How's it going, David Comic Book Investments? So in this video, we're going to look at not 5, not 6, not even 7, but 8 keys that are going up in price. And this is actually going to mostly focus on heritage auctions. Their big auction that just had probably, I don't know, like a week ago or something like that, just ended. So it's mostly just going to focus on those books. So you got those Grail, super high-end stuff. And I'm just focusing on like the hot top, tippity top stuff. But one of them went up 3,900%. Yes, 3,900% is what it went up, which is a crazy amount. But yeah, so we're going to look at those. So mostly it's just going to be off of heritage, kind of a heritage special, I guess, episode. All right, let's look at the first one. First one is Action Comics #1 in a 0.5. Basically, the last one sold was back in 2005, and it sold for $10,200. So almost 20 years ago. And it just recently sold for $408,000. That is up 3,900%. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're like, well, yeah, that was like forever ago. Of course it went up a ton. And I mean, I'm looking at other prices. There's not that many that sell, so it's really hard to compare prices. Even if I wanted to go with like the next grade, I think was like a 3.0 and it sold for couple million or something like that. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but pretty much, yeah, it went up a ton. I remember someone commented, it's like, well, yeah, if you go back further enough, of course it's going to go up. And I'm like, yeah, that's called investing. You buy something, you wait, and it goes up over time. Did you know not everything goes up though? Not everything does. You know, I was, because of the strikes and all that kind of stuff, if you would have bought Ford stock 10 years ago, you'd be down like 26% from 10 years ago. 10 years. In 10 years, it's gone down 26%. And then I think GM, their stock in the last 10 years is about like 6% or something. And I know Ford has like a dividend yield of like 4.1 something percent. And GM only has a dividend yield of like 1%. But like, there's better dividends out there. So basically, those are crappy stocks that you should not buy. And there's nothing on the horizon for me to believe that they're going to be anything great in the future. So I would not put my money in Ford or GM. 4% dividend yield is pretty high, but I know AT&T and Wells Fargo are much higher than that. And they are better companies and ran better. So yeah, not everything goes up, but an Action 1 did. Now let's look at the rest. All right, Superman #1 in a 1.5. The last one that sold was in August, and it sold for about $132,000. It just sold for $174,000. That is up 32%. And its all-time record was back in 2022 for $192,000. So that's down 9% from its all-time record. So yeah, I mean, this Superman #1, it went up 32% in a month. 2 months. I think it was like early August. This was later September. So that's pretty cool. And then if you want to go, okay, well, it's all-time record. Its all-time record was $192,000. So it's down 9% from its all-time high, which is in 2022, which was when a lot of things were very high. So only down 9%. That's pretty good. So see, certain comic books hold their value even though a lot of things are dropping. Next, we got Captain America Comics #1. This is a conserved 7.5. And the last time it sold was 2019 for $96,000. And it just recently sold for $168,000. That is up 75%. And it's the exact same book. It's the exact same book. You want to know why I know it's the exact same book that in 4 years went up 75%? It's because I was the underbidder on the one back in 2019. It wasn't technically my money. It was an investor wanted it, and I was basically going to buy it, and then we were going to split the profits, so to speak. Sometimes we do things like that. The investor will give us the money, we'll take it, we know what it's worth, and we kind of split the profits, so to speak. Basically, we do all the legwork, though. But yeah, so if I would have bought that book, I would have made an extra $60,000, $70,000. But I would have had to hold it for 4 years, which doesn't seem that long of a time when you think about it, because I remember bidding on this book too. So time goes by so fast. So cherish every moment. All right, next we got Batman #1, a 1.8. This always makes me mad. A 1.8 previously sold back in May for 114,000. One just sold for 138,000. That's up 21%. But the all-time record was 180,000, so that's down 23%. Down 23% compared to all these other ones that I've showed you, the down like 60, 70, 80, 90%. Not that bad. It always kicks me every time I see this Batman one, because we had a Batman one, and I think it was like a 3.5 or a 4.5. I can't remember which one. We sold it for $55,000. I know. It seems crazy, but that's what they were kind of going for. Sold on a Comic Link, actually. And we always kick ourselves. That one, not so much the Showcase 22, which I've talked about before, we had single highest grade, because that ended up getting beat. So not that bad. But still, this one, we always kick ourselves because we could have kept it, but we didn't. Oh well. Would it be a 4 or 5 worth? Judging by this, probably $500,000, man. Certain books you should just hold on to. Learn from my mistakes. All right, next we got XMen #1 in an 8.5. The last one to sell was back in 2022, and it sold for a little over 57,000. This one sold for almost 59,000, just up 2% in about a year's time. But its all-time record sold for 158,000. It's down 63%. You can look at that graph and just goes, and it's just so stupid, just so dumb. Like, I know what this is. I know exactly the people that bought this. In 2001. Do you guys remember? I don't know if they still exist. I'm sure some of them still exist a little bit. They're all riding off of funding, right? There's a lot of companies that got a lot of money in funding, and they're just basically living off of funding, other people's money. And eventually the funding will run out, and they'll have to be actually making money. So there's these companies called like Alt, Rally, Otis. I want to say there's one other one that I know of. What was the one that Kevin O'Leary would I always saw from Shark Tank. I always saw his Instagram ad pumping up. I can't remember what it was called. But so there's a few of these. And basically what you do, and some of the companies actually approached me to basically sponsor videos. And I said, no, thank you. Because I don't think it's a good product. Basically, these companies buy these books. Then you, the customer, goes out there and buys shares of the book. Then when the book goes up, you can sell your shares for more, but who's to say that it went up? Because the stuff they buy is super like obscure and rare and like kind of almost one of a kind for the most part. So it's like, okay, who's the one keeping tabs in the market? And then I've even went to their websites and they'll say certain books, oh, it's worth this amount. And I'm like, well, one just sold for like half that. So like they're obviously not so unless you're someone who invested in and you're also keeping tabs of what the actual markets are going for, then you could just look at your dashboard on one of these sites and it'll just be like, oh, it's gone up. You're like, yay. And so you sell shares, but they can also sell the item itself and then they pay the people out. So if you bought it at, say it was at a $500,000 valuation, they end up selling for $1 million. They'll pay you out, on that $1 million, depending on how many shares you own, all this kind of stuff. I never really liked that. I just feel like these companies, they went and they bought these big key books like this one right here. And they bought it for the purpose of putting it because they need stuff for people to buy shares of. So yeah, they way overpaid. And they were bidding against each other. Like a couple of these companies were bidding against each other, bidding at high. And so now it's right. So if you look at this graph here, if you look where it was before this big spike, look where it's trending. It was like slowly trending up. It was literally, just look at the line. It's literally going like this. And then you have this big bump and then it's right back to where it was. Slowly trending up, probably 5-10% a year. And then just get rid of that bump and it's literally on course, the exact same, where it should be. So those people are probably pretty upset and they're probably going to eventually run out of funding and then they're going to have to sell their stuff at a loss. All right. Next we got is Amazing Spider-Man #1 and a 7.5. The last one to sell was back in 2022 and it sold for $29,000. Now it just sold for a little over $38,000. That's up 32%. But the all-time record for one of these was back early 2022, and it sold for $56,000. So that's down 32%. Yes, 32 and 32. So still not that bad. Up 32% from the down. I mean, too bad, you know, I couldn't pick up that one for $29,000. But that's always the thing. It's like if I go to pick it up, it's probably an auction. I'll bid it higher. You know, so it's like whenever the person jumps in, you're gonna make that thing go higher. So it's not gonna be all-time low. All right, next is House of Secrets 92. A 9.6 just sold for $33,600, and the one previous to that was back in 2022 for $30,000, and that is up 12% for a 9.6, which is not the single highest grade. It is the second highest grade, and that was an all-time record. So it tied with the all-time record back in 2021, I think it was. So pretty much all-time high, right? Tied the highest record, this thing. So yeah, not going down, not the slightest. All right, last one on the list is SpiderMan 129, first appearance of Punisher. A 9.8 just recently sold for a little over $31,000. The previous one to that was back in May for $23,000. So that is up 35%, and its all-time record is 57%. So it's down 45%. So it's down almost half, which is kind of crazy. That there's just one giant sale that boosted it really, really high. If you get rid of that one sale, that's the thing. It's like a lot of these things that are like really, really high. It's always like just like one sale, like one moron that paid way too much. Most likely these companies that I speak of before. And they pay way, way too much, not realizing that even though this book is cool and awesome and all this kind of stuff and a 9.8, it is actually not that rare in the 9.8. There's many. You could probably go on eBay at any point, and for the most part, and there'll probably be a 9.8 up there at some point in a given month. And you always, 9.8s pop up in auctions, so I would imagine you probably come across a 9.8 multiple times a year. So they're not really that rare. Great to have, but not that rare. So some foolish person paid way too much. If you go to the one below that, other than the 57,000, you're looking at like the high 30s. So it's really it's still down. Other than that one sale, they have multiple sales in the high 30s. So it's not really down as much as it looks, other than that one sale. So it still looks like it's been, like I've said multiple times, that I think 2023 is just going to be this year. And it looks like it's been doing that. Like there's a couple highs, a couple lows, but it's kind of been flat for the most of 2023, which is still probably twice as much as what it was before the comic boom. That's pretty much it. I hope you like this special heating up. Have a good day.